Let's talk about Candace Owens' new theories around Ukraine, the Kazarian Mafia, and the Jews. And how the Khazarian Mafia are once again using Ukraine to fight the Iranians and Russia to subjugate them, because the Khazarian Mafia's secret Jewish cult leadership is utilizing them in a war against everything Russian. This is a real conspiracy theory. It has to do with a Turkic ethnic group and an empire that existed. I think it was like in the 6th century, a very long time ago. And there's some theories about its archaeological history and about what that society was like. And it's not exactly clear. And some people have theorized that its leadership adopted Judaism, and then they did things. Now, what exactly they did and if they adopted Judaism, none of this is proven. It's all like speculation. A lot of this is like very, very out there speculation. But then this is tied into kind of a cult history and then twisted into this has, even if any of this was true, assuming all of it was true, that this somehow has a relevance when talking about the modern Russian invasion of Ukraine, and that truly that the roots of the modern Russian invasion of Ukraine can be traced back to the Khazarian Mafia and their Jewish masters. Russia has a history of spreading anti-Semitic propaganda and in assistance to empire building. The Protocols of the Elder of Zion was produced by the Russian government to demonize the Jewish community. This is a theory that has been pumped up by Russian actors as well and spread around. And to see Candace Owens like repeat this on her show as kind of like, oh, maybe it's true, maybe it isn't, maybe it's somewhat respectable, maybe it's somewhat isn't, as if it's a position that can be honestly examined and be like, maybe it has some respect to it, makes me think that she has lost all of her mental acuity, all of her ability to tell fact from fiction, that she's in like the Bigfoot Loch Ness Monster territory of research now. She's basically out there fucking researching cryptids when she could instead be talking about politics, or that she's like bought by some foreign actor. It has to be one or the other. She has to either have broken down all of her critical thinking, is just being fed lines from a foreign actor, or just doesn't care either way. It's just whatever can get the most viewership, and she just says whatever is on her mind at any time with no regard for what's true or not. It's impossible to determine what's what because I'm not in her mind, but this is nonsense. Listen to this. Listen to how much respect she treats this wild theory. By the way, if you look up Kazarian Mafia, I checked this before stream. This is the first thing that comes up. There is no excuse for a lack of knowledge. If you Google it, the first thing that comes up is an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory is being shared on Telegram to justify Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And it goes into all the details about this. Look, conspiracy theories about the Khazars, a semi-nomadic Turkic people who established a major empire between Eastern Europe and Western Asia in the Middle Ages, have been spread in conspiracist, right-wing extremists, and Islamist communities prior to the current conflict. However, given that Khazaria span modern day, Southeast Russia, Southeast Ukraine, Crimea, and Kazakhstan, they've acquired distinct geographic relevance amidst the war in Ukraine. They became popular, yada yada. It goes into all the details. So she could have Googled this and found out any of the details of like the 6th to 8th century empire and what this has to do with modern day Zionism in any capacity, if it has anything to do with it outside of like what some Zionists were looking into in the early 19th century, and see if it has anything to do with this war. Her trying to connect it to the war in any capacity is wild. She could have just Googled this and immediately she would have been told like, this is a bunch of like nonsense, this is a bunch of crazy bullshit. And she decided not to. Look at this. This is like the type of sources we're getting. This is the type of nonsense she's rolling with. Just listen to this. Listen to the seriousness she treats this.
Now, in case you're not familiar at all with who the...
One second. I thought she was talking fast, but apparently not. This is normal speed.
Now, in case you're not familiar at all with who the Khazars are, outside of whether or not you can draw a line from the Khazar Empire, the Khazarian Empire...
I think it drew, sped it up.
My understanding, and I have not done enough research into it. Essentially, it was an empire. And can you fact check it again? This would be in Ukraine. And what would be modern Ukraine? And let me know in my ear when you dig that up, Mark.
We're checking.
Thank you. I'm pretty sure that it was in what would have been deemed modern Ukraine. It all goes back to Ukraine. But essentially, they were worshiping and doing things that were considered so immoral and so corrupt. And I'm talking about sexual stuff. And I'm also talking about in the way that they cheated people, that they were given an option.
This is all just speculation. This is all, none of this is true. That the elites were just so immoral and just, this is, again, this is just all speculation about this long dead empire. And she is not an archaeologist. She's admitted she's done no research and trying to tie this ancient aliens ass historical explanation into the modern war in Ukraine and the real lives of real people dying, and then be taken seriously as a geopolitical commentator.
From modern, I would say Iran, but Persia and Russia, like either you convert to one of the faiths like that we think will make you more moral, or we will crush you. And so there was this mass conversion in the 8th century. And you can fact check me on that too. I think it was the 8th century where the Khazarians mass converted to Judaism as the faith. And to be clear, it was the people that were running this empire at the top who were just up to no good, and they carried on their corruption. They carried on their sexual deviancy despite pretending to have converted to Judaism. That doesn't mean the people that they ruled over.
Imagine you're talking about, like, by the way, we're talking about like the ancient world. We're talking about like sexual deviancy. Like back then there was like slavery. Like people like, I'm going to take your child and I'm going to sell them like a cow. Like the most evil of just like disgusting things you can imagine putting people through. Like just treating women like cattle, the lack of any say people had in their communities due to dictatorship, all this stuff. And the stuff she concentrates on for the problems within this Khazarian Empire, so she knows nothing about, is their sexual deviancy. Oh God, the econ report just came back and it's pretty bad. It said, you know, unemployment's up like crazy. It's like, oh yeah, the Khazarian, it's not doing a good day in Khazaria here. Oh my God, I heard Prince Yaroslav kissed Prince Cutie Pie. Oh my God, they kissed? The empire's dead. It's collapsed. It's over. It's just so silly. Like, these are the things we concentrate on. Does she think like serious historians are like, what caused Khazaria's collapse? I know what caused their collapse. An over-concentration of femboys and gooning. Come on.
Over didn't meaningfully convert. I'm sure they did, but the people at the top didn't. And so Russia and I'm saying Iran because my brain is not doing. Russia and Persia teamed up and crushed the Kazarian Empire. And so there has been a theory for a while that what is happening is that the Khazarians are reassembling, and that essentially they want to crush Russia and Iran, which is kind of happening right now, actually, which is interesting to think about. I hadn't even thought about that until right now, that the elite do seem to really want war with Russia and Iran. But I'm just giving you guys that information so that you can know why that person commented on that. I can only tell you books that I've read from Israeli historians, but they say the science has been updated, so who knows? Now it's what was once established Israeli science is now anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. So I can't tell you what's right and what's wrong anymore in today's world.
Established Israeli science? This isn't science. This is history. This is the first. I don't even know what she means by that. Number two, like what is the thing that's changed? We still know very little about the Khazarians. So many of the conclusions she's making are just out there crazy nonsense, like you would expect from ancient aliens. And she's like, in real time, while saying the most batshit stuff imaginable, being like, wow, this actually all does make sense. Well, none of it at all makes sense. So the theory is that this is all she's just told her audience, is that in the 8th century, she doesn't say the 8th century, but in the 8th century, there were the Khazarians, and then they got really, really gay, and they got so gay that Russia and Iran had to invade and stop them from being so gay and so immoral and so bad. And so they crushed them. And so then the gay Jew Khazarians, centuries later, have decided to reorganize, and instead of doing their business in Israel, I guess, like which is the Jewish homeland now and has been established as the Jewish homeland for you know, Israelis, it's their national identity. Instead, they're going to regather in Israel to fight Russia, even though like Russian Jews make up a gigantic percentage of like the international community. Like Netanyahu has been like buddy with Putin before, like put him on his campaign posters when campaigning with him, like that they've decided out of nowhere that they're going to start these wars with Russia and Iran. Mind you, it was the Russians who invaded Ukraine in 2014. It was the Russians who violated many ceasefire agreements during the Minsk Accords, and it was the Russians who invaded again in 2022, lying about it the whole way. But somehow the Khazarians manipulated them to make these decisions to invade. Candace Owens, geopolitics. Why do you think the Daily Wire fired her? It must be censorship. It must be that she's just so brilliant and was going to call out Israel so well that they just, they had to get rid of her to save Israel. because she's such a geopolitical genius. You know, I think what they should do is get Candace Owens, send her to the pyramids, and get her to get to the bottom of who really made those things. God, unironically though, if the History Channel needs a new crazy alien show, her and Tucker Carlson would make a good co-host team, and going into haunted houses and scamming people into thinking aliens came down and made all the things that tribes thousands of years ago made, but they just can't believe it because the people who made it were brown. My goodness. Candace Owens, geopolitical expert, thank you for telling me so much about the Khazarians. Like, she's like one of the most popular conservative commentators online, and this is the level of her geopolitical commentary.